Let's play Symble. I'll start with Blaze as usual. Okay, so it's been a bit since I've explained the Symble rules, so I apologize. I'll do the best that I can here, but the basic idea is the coloring has been reversed. So imagine, it's thinking of a secret word, right? Just like Wordle. But imagine that secret word was here, beneath these symbols. Now, we don't know what the symbols mean. They're different every time, and they're even different for different people. So we have to decode what they mean. But imagine that the answer, the secret answer, was here under these symbols. And imagine we guessed that in Wordle, and the answer was Blaze. How would the answer get colored such that Blaze could be the answer? So how would the Symble answer be colored such that Blaze was the Wordle answer? So imagine this was a green, right? That would mean that our answer would have to have a Z here, because in order to get a green, again, if Blaze was the answer, in order to get a green in the fourth spot, we would have to have guessed a Z there. And I always start with Blaze because I really like the sort of balance between common and uncommon and rare letters. And so we assume there's no Z in the word just because most words don't have Z. We're doing a statistical heuristic here. And so I'm assuming this is a yellow. So now, how would this end up yellow? Well, that would mean that our answer, whatever letter was here in our answer, whatever that letter is, belongs somewhere else in Blaze, not in the fourth spot, which means it's a B, L, A, or E. Now, I'm going to assume it's not a B because the other assumption I make is that if the word has a B in it, it starts with B, which is true about 2/3 of the time. So all of that said, I'm going to put an E here, and I'm going to try an ER word. So I'm going to do timer. Whoa, okay. So I think what's happened here is that our yellow drop is our green, meaning we do end in ER. But these, remember, this was our yellow, so that means that we need to rearrange these three. That's a crazy result, if that's true. And so it would have to be like I just don't think there's a word imter. So how else do we I mean, the other option is that we're extremely close to Blaze. Like we could be Blade. So oh wait, but then how do we explain these colors? Well, it wouldn't be Blade, but what if okay, so I'm thinking, what if these stars were the greens? We'd have BLA something E. I think it's Blair. Yeah, it has to be Blair. Because now these are saying, hey, so if you think about, imagine Blair being here. In fact, I can just draw it with a pen. Imagine this was Blair. And our secret answer was timer. Right? So if we're playing Wordle and the answer is timer, and we guess Blair, how would Blair get colored? Well, B, L, and A aren't in timer, so they're going to be gray. And then R and E are in timer, but they're in the wrong spot, so they'd be colored yellow. And so the key here is that we need to move ER somewhere else. But so now imagine that Blair was the answer here. I don't know if this helps. But imagine we guessed Blair in Wordle and the answer was Blaze. Well, what we'd end up with is B, L, A, and E being green, and then the R is gray because there's no R in Blaze. And so that's why the answer is probably Blair. I think it has to be Blair. So here we go. Not Blair. Wait, why wasn't it Blair? Oh, it could also be Blame, actually. Yep. Wait, no, I think it had to be Blame. I think, actually, hold on. Was I thinking about that wrong? No, I wasn't thinking about it wrong. It's just Blame is another option that would do the same thing. Okay. Well, that's a shame. I got a kind of a trap. That is crazy that this game, where I'm trying to explain it, had that insane result. But you can see it kind of colors it now. It says, "Hey, these were the oranges; those were green," and then it's saying that these two were the two that ended up in these two spots. That's what I was trying to tell you here. These yellows were pointing at these two. I don't know how helpful that is, but anyway, I think if it were to put blame over these and then recolor the symbols or something, it would make it much more clear. But anyway, I hope that helped. There's kind of a heuristic to think about these without having to work backwards that way, but that's literally how the game is programmed, is how I explained it. Anyway, how'd you do?